Congratulations on your decision to join the United States military. Welcome to Hope, Courage, and Love for the Christian Warfighter. The learning objectives will be the background of military service, ethics, religion, specifically how Christianity plays into it, values, hope, courage, and love, the biblical integration of the values, and the Christian connection. The United States Army is the oldest standing organization within the United States, created to fend off the British and establish freedom and religious freedom. It has withstanded throughout time to do just that, defend the Constitution. The cultural and ethics of the force is an important aspect of the military. It relies on it. You'll become to understand several different acronyms that will drive specifically the Army culture, but you also have your religious moral compass that will guide you on your journey in your military career. Religious views and personal beliefs are built upon personal attributes. So most likely, a lot of you probably started going to church at a very young age or grew up in a family that brought you up as a Christian. And then others may have been saved later in life or just discovered Christianity. But all of your experiences throughout life collaborate to bring your worldview. And everyone's worldview is different because their upbringing is different. The same reasons for joining the military is going to be different across all services and service members. But one of those reasons may been to keep Americans safe and to defend the freedoms that we have, one of which being religious freedoms. Hope. Hope is the driving factor that continues to propel service members forward. Without hope, we would be lost, and there would be no reason to fight in a war or to defend Christianity, to defend others. So hope increases the job engagement because hope provides a physical, emotional, and psychological resource that motivates employees. Without a motivation, no one is going to continue to press forward. And even with Christian motivation, right? Without Christian motivation, one isn't going to continue to seek a better environment, continue to try to glorify the Lord. Missionaries aren't going to go on missions to try to rescue villages and to help them bring them closer to the Lord. The Lord tells us there is surely future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. That's Proverbs 23:18 from the New International Version. And then in Army doctrine, we can see that leadership includes providing a purpose, direction, and motivation. So as a leader, it is our job to motivate soldiers and provide a direction. But at the end of the day, the soldiers should still abide by their moral Christian compass and ethics. Not all commands from your higher headquarters are going to be legal, moral, or ethical, and you can't get in trouble for disregarding orders that fall into that realm. Now let's talk about courage. Courage is standing up for the better good when others will not. And you've probably seen this throughout your entire life, whether it is having the courage to face a bully and defend someone else, or to face your own bullies in life. But it takes courage, and courage is shown in many different factors depending on worldviews, personality, personal traits. Um, but courage, by definition, cannot serve an unethical end, and that the true courage should serve a moral and just cause. So, having the courage to do what is right, it comes in the forms of doing what is right when no one else is looking, and that ties back into the leadership aspect of courage. Or the courage to stand up in a crowded room and say something that is opposing from the views of everyone else, even when it brings on scrutiny. If we think back of Jesus, he had to withstand courage to stand up to the Romans and continue to preach Christianity. And there was a lot of different people throughout his life that wanted to tear down his values and the ethics that he followed, to include, putting the law of the Lord before the law of the land. Courage is through the eyes of the beholder, and that actions can be interpreted as courageous or not. So, courage is subjective to the end user. So, if we think of like a warrior walking with Christ, he's doing all these different courageous things day in, day out, and a single action of minute courage, which could be a huge action on the end of the person actually performing the act. But the individual who's doing the stuff day in, day out may not see it as courageous because they're used to it. It's became a norm. Whereas this individual doing it one time, or who's never done anything courageous in their life, they're going to see courage as a different aspect. So it is subjective to the eyes of the beholder and the person interpreting the act in itself. But do not be afraid because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you, and he'll never leave you nor forsake you. The Lord's going to stand by you, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how other people interpret your courage, because we're only going to be judged by the Lord when we go to heaven. But do be courageous and stand up for what is right in your moral beliefs and your ethics and Christian values. Now let's talk about love. Love is probably the most overused word in the English language. However, love is a emotional response. It is how we connect with others, and there's varying levels of love. But love starts with shared experiences. You have love at the every level of relationships, from acquaintances to marriages to the bond that you share with the Lord. But it all starts somewhere. All those relationships start at a basic level and are built upon. And if you didn't love it, you wouldn't continue to do it, at least to some degree. So shared experiences in the military, start with basic training all the way up to individual training when you get in your unit, going to a field exercise, going physically deploying and fighting a war. That's going to build shared experiences and strengthen the bonds between individuals. And those bonds will go all the way down to family bonds. And, being in the military, the service member to your left and the right, regardless of their culture and beliefs and where they came from and everything else in life, those are all ignored because you create such a strong bond with them that can continue for life. The level of love can rise and fall discontinuously due to sudden and unexpected events. So that's saying love isn't steady, and something that you love today, you may not love tomorrow, and it's all based on different events in our life and how they impact us on a personal level. It also ties back to our worldview. An event can be triggered from something from your past that is kind of replaying out in the current environment, and that's going to affect how you think about something and how you feel about something, or even people. An example of that is if you were abandoned a lot by your friends or family as a child, you may have some issues that are underlying. If you start feeling abandonment in your current environment, your love for the people around you is probably going to sway a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not unusual to feel a little bit of anxiety, or maybe to have a small amount of depression. But you have to keep in mind that it's event driven, and that your love can rise again. You see this a lot with individuals and their faith. They lose a loved one, and their first question is, why did God let them die? And He let other people live. Same thing on the battlefield. Why do our friends die? And the enemy who doesn't believe in God gets to live. And that is a question that a lot of military Christians struggle with. But we love because He first loved us. So even our enemies, to some degree, we have to learn to respect and understand their culture. And overseas, we can reach and touch so many different people and on different scales. If we look at the modern war on terrorism, we can learn that the little things that we do can have large impacts. So something as small as giving food to the displaced personnel in a country can help them see the kindness and overall affect the mission that the Army is doing. But it also gives us a chance to reach indigenous people on a different level, such as bringing them closer to Christianity, the same as a mission would do, except with different overarching goals happening. So in the military, you may not necessarily be building a school or hospital that's going to directly affect those people, but you could be freeing them from their oppressors and therefore giving them the opportunity to become closer to the Lord. An example of the three values, hope, courage, and love, we can see through Private Desmond T. Doss. Private Doss ended up winning the Medal of Honor from his actions, and Private Doss joined the military as a conscientious objector. So he objected to violence, and a lot of this is based off of his religious and moral and ethical grounds. But he refused to carry a rifle into war. And at the time, when you joined the military, you would go to basic training, and the people that you went to basic training with, you would deploy overseas and fight the war with. So with the NCOs running the course and his fellow service members, they didn't like this because Private Doss, stated, "Hey, I'm not going to carry a weapon into war. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to take life. I want to give life, and I'm going to give life through combat medicine." So it was very unpopular, and they actually tried to kick Private Doss out of the military because he refused to carry a weapon. But because he was doing it for his religious beliefs, and he has that right and he's entitled to his religious freedom, he was able to stay in. And that's one thing about the military, is that's one of the freedoms that you don't lose, is your freedom to religion. So as a Christian, you're allowed to practice that faith, and that can't be taken away from you. So if you're practicing your faith and you're following your ethical and moral grounds as part of that faith, you shouldn't necessarily be punished for the actions that you take to follow through with that. What we can see through Christianity as it ties to the military and the business realm, focusing on white collar working, is the values of Christianity and the ethics of Christianity closely are mirrored in a lot of different American corporations. Whether it's being honest, not having office relationships, not gossiping. Those are all things that we can see kind of through Christianity. So the ethics and the value systems aren't really that much different. Where we see the difference is sometimes people's morals and ethics can be swayed. Where on a Christian, we would expect them to kind of stand their ground a little bit more. But that is one place where you can stand your ground and be comfortable doing it. And it takes courage to stand up for those values and ethics. And it also provides hope for a better future. All it takes is one person to drive a change. So if someone's telling you to not do something or to do something that's against your will, like Private Doss, it ended up driving a change. So through his courageous actions of standing up for his beliefs, he ended up going to war, and his company ended up on this cliff, and they're face to face with Japanese soldiers, and his company wasn't prepared, so they ended up pulling back to kind of restage, refit, and to go back up there and continue the fight. Well, during that time, Private Doss ended up deciding to stay behind because his goal was to give life and protect people. And as he started saving men from the top of that cliff and rappelling them down to safety, people started to see that there was more to Private Doss. It wasn't that he just didn't want to carry a weapon, and it wasn't that he just didn't want to follow the rules. He really intended on saving people's lives, and he really intended on not taking a life. So even though in the beginning they tried to punish him for his beliefs, they really ended up seeing the virtue in it. So much so that actions to that degree can bring other people closer to your faith, because they start seeing the picture and the bigger picture of the faith system. And then they also start to respect the individual, and the faith a lot more. So the biblical values, for hope, we can see in the Bible that there is surely a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. There's always got to be something propelling you forward, and the Lord has a plan for all of us, and He's guiding us through life, and we're going to make mistakes, we're going to stumble, and there's going to seem like there's these large obstacles in front of us. Whether it's something very minute or basic in our lives, or something that is going to be an enduring challenge that we're faced, that we have to overcome. But keep in mind that the lessons that we learn from these challenges aren't necessarily always just for us. It's for other people around us. It can strengthen other people's faith and bring them closer to the Lord. It can take a non-believer and turn them into a believer. So don't lose hope when you're faced with challenges that seem like they're unaccomplishable, or even a hope in the Lord. Sometimes it's going to be hard when you're in battle to keep your faith and hope in the Lord too. The questions are going to come up: why this? Why that? If God truly loved me, why would He allow different things to take place? But other people have to learn too, and without without evil, there will not be good. There's no basis to judge good if there's no basis to judge evil. For courage, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. The Lord's going to always look over us as we look over others, and as we fight to defend our country and our way of life and our religious freedom. The Lord's going to look after us. And one of the big questions that I've struggled with personally in my military career is when the time comes to take a life. The Bible tells us not to kill, but they're to defend our way of life and our culture and our religious beliefs. At the same time, it becomes a necessity. So where does that lie, right? And what kind of courage does someone have to take to be able to do that? Then we love because he first loved us. So with love, it's not just a love for our religious views and love for the Lord, but it's also love for the people around us. It's love for our enemies and understanding what they're may going through on their end. Loving the population of people who are affected by the war, in their country. And, even though their viewpoints are going to be different, their worldviews are going to be different. As a Christian leader, we really focus on servant leadership, putting the needs of others before ourselves. And we can see several examples of servant leadership through Jesus and his path through life in the flesh. He shows us that we have to put other people's needs before our own, and that we shouldn't be a slave to being a leader and being the master of the slaves, but taking a step back and putting other people's needs before our own. And as a leader, you can always tie in your Christian faith, and one of our objectives as Christians is to spread Christianity, but respecting other people's religious views, can also aid and bringing people closer to Christianity, because if you're taking a step back and saying your views and beliefs are different than mine, you're also taking a step back and allowing them to see that your views and beliefs are different, but it's also showing that they're respectful, and through the close ties between some religious values and ethics, it may be something where someone sees that there is only one true God, and that he is an understanding and forgiving God, that they'll take that leap of faith and become a Christian. So the way that we practice our Christian faith and motivate subordinates could push people further from the faith, or it can bring them closer to the faith, and it's a very conscious decision on how you approach that. But through servant leadership and putting other people's needs first and focusing on them and their families and what they need to be successful and to help lift them up, the odds of them becoming closer with the Christian faith definitely grows. Then we've mentioned the warfighting dilemma, taking a life versus saving a life, and what does God want? And it's hard to tell, but when we look back at the biblical connection, we can see that there's potential for the Lord to recognize our acts and good deeds. So the biblical connection, we want to focus on the Old Testament when we look at the war fighting functions, because in the Old Testament there was a lot of war. God had the chosen people for each war, and they would win, and some would be driven out to the desert for years before they could return back to the Lord's good graces. But we also have to tie in the New Testament and the understanding of the Lord from Jesus and the disciples. And from that, we kind of start to set the stage for our guiding principles, and how the Lord wants us to act and behave. So we can see that defending people isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think the hardest struggle is taking a life, and when is that justified, and how is that justified? And I think at the end of the day, it boils down to the intent. As a Christian warfighter, we're defending our religious freedoms in America, and we're doing so to keep other Christians safe. In the future, we could see that you could be fighting against another Christian, but at what point is your courage and hope deteriorated, where you pull back, or at what point does it go against your morals and ethics? The same thing on the opposite end of that for a potential Christian that may be on the other side. But what we do know is America has one of the largest populations of Christians versus other countries. And then the biblical connection to the community. So with America being the largest population of Christians, you'll see a lot of Christians in the military, and then also off base in town, through your church. The community is going to be there to uplift you and help you maintain your Christian morals and ethics. So for the application of a Christian in the military, and all things that we've talked about throughout this presentation, is your morals and how you judge and act in certain situations, and then also the ethics behind it. So are you doing it for the right reasons? Your faith and how that ties into your career, it's going to drive your ethics and morals. And if you're unwavering from your faith, like Private Das, you're going to continue to push and drive relentlessly for your faith, and you're going to defend that faith to the very end. All these things are brought in by your worldview, and again, your worldview is your upbringing. Your worldview is going to change because we're constantly experiencing new experiences, and then those get filed with all your past experiences. But each experience has an outcome, and that outcome is positive or negative, and that is going to weigh in on your future decision making. But it also incorporates your morals, ethics, and your faith. Without courage, or without hope, there is no courage. So if you take away hope, you're not going to have people or service members acting courageously. But courage is, the drive to stand up against the odds. Whether it's standing up to people who don't share the same beliefs. Courage is standing up for what is right when no one else will. Courage is being that one person in a crowd to do something different, that where the impact for the action can be great, or it can be greatly negative as well. Hope, without hope, everything kind of ceases. There has to be a hope to push someone forward. It's a motivating factor. It's an underlining tone. So without hope, there really isn't a lot. So we have to look when we start losing hope, we have to look back to the Lord and follow His guidance. And then love, you're going to have those shared experiences. You're going to meet new people. You're going to have new experiences, and you're going to find love. But keep in mind that love is a overused expression. So look at it. You have to take a step back and look at and evaluate each and every person and situation or experience to determine whether it's something that you liked or enjoyed, or if it was something that you truly love, that that you feel that you can't live without. When we look at faith, it's one of the things that as a saved Christian, we understand that we can't live without the Lord. We love Him. We love His presence. We love the gifts that He provides us, and the fruit that bears in life. So love is a very important aspect, but it's also a motivator for the things that we do. We're going to protect the things that we love, and we're going to do it with such a vigor that no one else is going to want to try to take it away. Jesus loved us as people, whether He was accepted or not accepted by them. He still loved them. He wanted to bring everyone closer to the Lord, but He wanted to do it with the right ethics. And even when He was dying on the cross, Jesus still had a love for man, and through His expression of love, continued the growth of the faith and bringing people closer to Him in the Lord. Attached to the references used during this presentation, the big one being the Holy Bible, New International Version from Bible Getaway. Bible Getaway is a great resource to be able to get on and look up Bible verses and use that for further growth and learning.